Hello everyone, Adrienne here. So you guys know, if you've been watching me for a long while, that I've always wanted to give the hidden and neglected gems of classic works of Gothic literature their full recognition. When I did start covering Gothic literature on my channel, which turned out to be incredibly fun and a wonderful way to go for Gothic content, so to speak. I made a conscious effort to avoid featuring stories that were more well-known because of their subject matter concerning vampires and ghosts, and I did this because there seems to be a tendency to slap the label Gothic on something just because there are vampires or ghosts in the story, when there are many more components to a story that makes it Gothic. Even when applied to classic works of Gothic literature, this unfortunately does tend to give the impression that Gothic literature is just vampires and ghosts, and you guys know how I despise gross oversimplifications. Yeah. I wanted to put those other aspects of the Gothic novel on display in application to classic works. Works like The Monk, The Italian, Romance of the Forest, A Long Fatal Love Chase, Rebecca, Like Death, and The Phantom of the Opera, and many, many others. Now, today, I'm pleased to present to you a gem of a modern Gothic novel that I discovered at the book rack on Whidbey Island. It's a place that Kenny and I, love frequenting. It's a really awesome spot there to buy books and, other hobby supplies, so to speak. So I ended up picking up a few new Gothic novels from there recently because they really caught my attention and piqued my interest. I promised myself that I wouldn't turn my back on modern works of Gothic fiction if they carried on the proper tradition of a Gothic novel. And this book, The Death of Jane Lawrence by Caitlin Starling, thoroughly and faithfully prolongs that sacred tradition. It's refreshing to see that there are authors out there who love the Gothic genre with reverence. This title is not just another ghost story with the Gothic label slapped on it for clout. Absolutely not. This is a lush tapestry of a Gothic tale with serendipitous romance, an obsession with the occult, a heroine of steadfast willpower, and a house with a multitude of dark secrets. The Death of Jane Lawrence follows the descent into magic and madness of Jane, a young, orphaned, unmarried woman with a gift for accounting, mathematics, and record-keeping. She's looking to enter into a marriage of convenience with Dr. Augustine Lawrence, who is a brilliant surgeon and respected doctor, with a mysterious old house and an even more obscure past. He seems initially reluctant to enter into this strange arrangement with Jane, as if something from his past is keeping him from it. But Jane is persistent in her proposal, and he is finally won over by her sharp wit, mathematical skills, and her uncanny ability to keep cool as a surgical assistant in his operating room in town. He agrees to her terms and presents a condition of his own, that she is never to spend the night in his ancestral dilapidated country home, Lindridge Hall, even though he retreats there every night while she is to live in his practice in town. If she's not allowed to spend the night at Lindridge Hall, then why is he so insistent on doing that? Very strange. When one night, shortly after their marriage, an unexpected carriage accident lands her the inopportune chance to spend the night at Lindridge Hall, Jane slowly begins to realize why Dr. Lawrence wanted her to stay away. She sees the confident, competent surgeon crumble into a state of paranoid unease and terror when night falls. She initially dismisses these frightful fancies of his until she begins to see an apparition of a beautiful young woman with red eyes in the reflections of windows and mirrors in the decaying mansion. Whew. Yeah, I think I would stay away too. She's also feeling not only her attraction for Dr. Lawrence bloom, but she can also feel his attraction blossoming for her as well. When she wanders the house, she finds the door to the cellar heavily padlocked. For safety reasons, her husband says. Sure. Things get even stranger after a group of doctors that are good friends and colleagues of Dr. Lawrence's suddenly call upon the good doctor for a surprise visit when he's not home. Oh my. That's kind of stressful. Jane takes the opportunity to probe them and pick their brains in order to learn more about her husband. Dr. Lawrence is distressed to see these uninvited guests in his home once he does return, but reluctantly lets them stay. As conversations are driven away from the subjects of medicine and Dr. Lawrence's history, they are steered toward magic, and Jane learns that her husband isn't just a doctor, but part of a coven of magicians dabbling in the supernatural. Dr. Lawrence is violently terror-stricken at the mention of his friends wanting to participate in a ritual, and even more so at suggestions of including Jane. What is it that Dr. Lawrence and Lindridge Hall are hiding? Jane can't even fathom what awaits her in this decrepit house. So overall, this story was shockingly good. I didn't expect it to be so multifaceted, dramatic, and suspenseful. I kinda like that this takes place in an alternate fantasy version of England in an unspecified era, but it still feels very distinctly Victorian, perhaps even with a slight steampunk aesthetic lurking throughout. As for the plot, the entire time, even when you're questioning the motives and the possible dark and sinister history of Dr. Lawrence, you do find yourself kind of rooting for Jane and Dr. Lawrence to prevail over their trials and tribulations in Lindridge Hall. You're just like, I just want those two crazy kids to make it. And it's nice that the author does make the characters likable. I have only 2 complaints about the story, and mind you, they're very minute and really didn't diminish my enjoyment of the story. I just want to make that known. First, and this is a super nitpicky one, there are certain moments where Jane comes off with the I'm not like the other girls kind of vibe. If you guys have read this and also get that vibe, please let me know. I want to see if I'm the only one that gets that, but that's just something that I kind of picked up on. Second, the climax did last a bit longer than I would have liked, but I can understand why the author went with that pacing. It did build up a lot of suspense and kept you invested in the outcome at the end. So was this just a lazy ghost story with the label Gothic slapped on it? Absolutely not. You'll see when the plot thickens that is definitely not the case, in more ways than one. The writing style was so good and so representative and reminiscent of the 19th century standard of storytelling that if you told me that this was written in the late 19th century, I would totally believe you. The death of Jane Lawrence was amazing and upholds the tradition of Gothic literature, so if you're thirsty for modern Gothic novels, I think this will definitely scratch your itch. So everyone, thank you so much for joining me today. This was a lot of fun. I know things have been a little busy and chaotic, but now that my comeback concert is over and a lot of other things kind of happening in the background are done and over with, things are starting to chill out, and I am able to devote just a little bit more time toward making the content that I am passionate about. So thank you all so much for your patience and bearing with me. And again, I'm so sorry about the long hiatuses between videos, but I know you guys are super awesome and understanding about it. So subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and make sure you hit that bell for notifications for more videos on the goth subculture, Gothic literature, goth music, and absinthe, and other fun stuff that we love doing around here. Thank you so much to my patrons for your support every single month. I really, really appreciate it. You guys are absolutely phenomenal. And to everyone, you're amazing. I love you, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!